AITA for replying no when Mill asked if I would apologize for my wife, her daughter. My wife lost her dad 9 months ago, and shortly after she was pregnant. While she struggled with this mix of emotions, her mother, or MIL, leaned on her for support. During a 3D/4D ultrasound, MIL brought her new boyfriend and insisted my wife accept her boyfriend, even after our baby was born, and my wife allowed only MIL to visit. Last weekend, MIL accused her of being selfish and insisting her boyfriend could be a wonderful grandfather. My wife lost her dad 9 months ago. We leaned a few days later. She was pregnant. For a few weeks, she had such a hard time coping with the fact she was expecting our first child after losing her dad, and the fact he would never get to meet his grandkids or live to be a living, breathing grandfather. She ended up seeking therapy because it was a struggle for her to get back on track. I was doing everything I could to support her. In that time, MIL was around a lot. My wife was their only child, so MIL leaned on her and sought out the comfort of having family. They grew closer than ever before, and slowly MIL started spending less time with us, but she'd still stop by, and they wanted MIL to be there for a 3D/4D ultrasound my wife was booked in for. I was also there, of course. On the day of, MIL showed up with a man and introduced him as her boyfriend. She said she wanted to include him in such a special moment. My wife said he was not coming into the room with us, and they argued before my wife told MIL to leave. MIL and my wife fought more afterward because my wife didn't say hi or anything to MIL's boyfriend, and because MIL felt my wife should have been more open to including him. Things became tense because my wife told MIL she couldn't be around him yet. MIL tried pushing and pushing, but my wife held firm. When my wife had our baby, she let MIL know, and MIL wanted her and the boyfriend to visit to meet their grandchild. My wife said she could come, but he was not welcome. A week later, just this past weekend in fact, MIL dropped by to confront my wife over this. MIL told her she was being selfish and how her boyfriend is lovely and would be a wonderful grandfather and how she can't force them apart. My wife said that's fine. If she can't come without him, then she'd just have to accept it. MIL said she doesn't have to. Just accept him and let our child have a grandfather, except having another older male presence in her life. My wife lost her temper and yelled at MIL that the boyfriend is not our child's grandfather, is not anything to her, and nobody she dates will ever be able to fill those shoes. Then, my wife left the room and went to cry. She wanted some space, so I gave it to her and told MIL she needed to leave. MIL wouldn't leave at first, and then she goes, "I suppose you'll apologize for her now." And I just said no, nothing else, just no. And then I was able to get her to leave. She made some kind of angry face at me and told me I didn't need to be so rude about saying no, that I didn't need to mock her. AITA, relevant comments. Commenter, NTA, you don't bring a boyfriend to meet the family at an ultrasound. Even the BF should have known that. The MIL's comments make it seem like she's trying to fill in the void that the FIL's passing left, and she's doing it quickly. I hope she's not rushing into things. If your MIL wants to introduce the new BF to your child, she needs to take the time to introduce him to you and your wife away from the kid. And based on what's happened so far, it's going to take a lot of time. Don't apologize to your MIL. You should have just laughed at her comment and told her to get out. Commenter, I feel bad for Mill. She lost her partner and is lonely and wants to date again, but she's a fool. That is not how you introduce your boyfriend to your daughter, and you can't make him a grandfather less than a year after she lost her father. She's moved on very fast. If she only started dating after dad died, Mill loses all sympathy for how she is handling it and lashing out at her daughter, who is also grieving and very hormonal and sleep deprived. Commenter, yeah, my grandma got a new boyfriend after my grandfather died, but that was years later. He was papa to all the other grandchildren because they were born later and he was considered family by then. I now call him Papa, his name. He doesn't try to fill the void as dad or grandfather for my dad and his siblings plus me. He is very much considered like a dad to my father, at least. My grandfather died when he was 22. My grandma then passed, but he is still our family. A couple of years later, he started dating this lady. She is just the sweetest. She doesn't try to fill the role, but my God, she deserves the title. Some of us do use Nana, her name, every once in a while. I try to remember, but sometimes forget. But she helped me heal and deserves the world. OPNTA. Story 2. AITA for not changing my wedding date to accommodate my brother's religious ceremony. I, 29F, have been planning my wedding for over a year. My fiancé, 31M, and I chose our date in April because it's when we met and it's meaningful to us. We've sent out save the dates, booked vendors, and even some guests have booked flights. Everything was set until my brother, 26M, announced his conversion to a new religion. We were supportive of his decision, but his ceremony, which marks a major spiritual milestone, was scheduled for the same weekend as my wedding. He asked if I could change my wedding date because in his faith these ceremonies are rare and only held on certain days. Moving the wedding would be extremely difficult and costly. Our vendors are mostly non-refundable, and guests have already started making travel plans. I explained this to my brother, but he got upset, accusing me of being selfish and prioritizing my party over his spiritual journey. My parents took his side, saying that I should be more flexible and that his ceremony is more important than a wedding, which could happen any weekend. They've even hinted that they might not attend my wedding if I don't accommodate him. To be clear, I love my brother, and I understand the importance of his ceremony, but we've been planning this for a year, and moving the date would be a financial disaster for us. We've already invested thousands into this day. My fiancé and I even offered to host a celebration dinner for my brother's conversion, but he rejected the idea, saying it wasn't the same and that I'm not taking his faith seriously. Now, my brother says he might not attend the wedding, and our parents are supporting him, framing me as the selfish one. Some extended family members are even siding with him, saying they'd rather attend his ceremony because it's more meaningful than my wedding. I feel like I'm being forced to choose between honoring my wedding plans and respecting my brother's new faith, which wasn't even a factor when we set the date. This has caused a huge rift in the family. My fiancé is on my side, but I'm starting to question whether I'm being too rigid. I want my brother at my wedding, but changing the date would be incredibly costly and stressful. Am I the one being unreasonable here for sticking to my original plans? AITA? Relevant comments. Commenter. NTA. This has caused a huge rift in the family. My fiancé is on my side, but I'm starting to question whether I'm being too rigid. I want my brother at my wedding, but changing the date would be incredibly costly and stressful. Am I the one being unreasonable here for sticking to my original plans? You have had this date picked for over a year. If your family chooses your brother over you, then you know where you stand with your family. Has your brother always been seen as the golden child? Commenter. Agree. It's clear that OP's brother is the way he is because he has been spoiled by the parents. It's all about him. Commenter. What does he need to join a religion for? His parents already worship him. Commenter. I thought something similar. Those that don't attend your wedding are a perfect screening tool for who you don't want to stand by you on that day. Religion is defined by faith, and for some, for life. A ceremony does not define your faith. Love does. Your brother should have said, put me in for the next ceremony. I don't care if it's a year off my sister, who I love has planned her wedding on that day and needs me to stand up for her in celebration. Story 3. Just found out wife of 10 years has been having multiple affairs. First time posting here, but struggling to make sense of this. We've been together 12 years, married 9.5 years, 3 kids. One is my stepson from wife's previous relationship that I've helped raise since he was about 3 years old. She's had multiple rounds of texting/sexting guys for a number of years. Former coworkers, husbands, ex-boyfriends, etc. But supposedly never acted on any of it. Not that it's acceptable either way. I was really sick around the holidays. Me and our youngest got COVID, and then pneumonia, sick for a couple of months. Rounds of antibiotics, steroids, IVs. Around that time, she started hanging out with a guy who is her best friend's ex, to take our kids on play dates with their kids. I didn't like it, questioned it, and they both just said they're friends, it's so the kids can play, and she definitely used the fact that I was sick as healed during that time to help start what this turned into. He comes to our house sometimes when I'm here. Definitely picked up on something going on between them. He couldn't even make eye contact with me the last time. Every time I asked, for like 10 months, she's not attracted to him, just friends, I'm paranoid, etc., etc. About a month ago, they were at a birthday party and decided the kids would do a sleepover, and texted me while they were at the party. I said, absolutely not. Not an option. Not acceptable. Come home, bring the kids. She didn't respond until around 10:30 p.m. and said, sorry, kids are sleeping. We'll be home in the morning. You have nothing to worry about. I was incredibly frustrated, angry. I told her it's not okay, and pretty hard to come back from this. No response. We talked about it the next day. She said nothing happened, and I said I'm still not okay with it. She didn't really seem to care, didn't want to try and fix it. Did the normal you work too much bullshit, even though I work from home and do more with the kids than any other dad I know. So, we agreed to take a break since she just had zero remorse or interest in trying to work on this problem. After talking with the kids, I found out they slept in the same room together, and of course she still denied it. Her phone is like Fort Knox, but I eventually found FB messages, texting/sexting multiple other guys, including this guy, talking about how terrible I am, can't wait to be together, etc. The worst part is, I've been uncomfortable with her relationship with one of our neighbors for years. Every time I ask, nothing going on, just friends. I knew they texted, but there were never any messages. When I asked, she said they both delete the messages because his wife would be upset. Of course my reaction was, then WTF are you doing that is so bad, and she of course said nothing. I confronted him about it, and he denied anything was happening. Our kids are the same age, play together every day, which makes it worse. Anyway, in the messages between her and these other guys I just found, there are messages talking about this neighbor, and how she can't help it, has feelings for him, feels like a toy, but she goes over every time he asks to have sex. Current status. After pushing very hard for about a week, literally like pulling teeth, she admitted to having sex with the first guy, playdate guy, but said there's nothing going on with the neighbor. After more pushing, she admitted to unprotected sex with playdate guy multiple times this year, starting around the holidays. When I was sick AF, I asked her about the messages talking about the neighbor, and she just said nothing happened and stopped answering questions. When I mentioned asking his wife if she's aware, she got very upset, crying, shaking, which obviously means something is going on and she doesn't want his wife to know, because that creates a problem for him, and she clearly has feelings for him. I asked one of her friends, and she called me right away and said, "I'm so sorry. She told us you knew about it, and you've been separated for over a year. Even worse, the neighbor thing has been happening for years. And I've questioned them both for years. They both had me and his wife convinced we were paranoid. The sexting was pretty damn bad too, but the playdate guy affair is pretty frustrating because they used the kids as an excuse to get together. He's been in my house, spends time with us. The neighbor guy one feels worse because it's been going on for so long. Kids are friends. They've been growing up together, and our families are close. We know their kids' grandparents. The kids go to the same school, and we live about 50 yards away from their house. Even up to the last possible minute, she lied about the neighbor, even with evidence. Obviously no coming back from this, and she's done other things to ruin trust before, but this is pretty painful. Any tips to deal with this for those who have been through it? And not that keeping score matters with these terrible situations, but curious if anyone had a situation worse than this. Relevant comments. Commenter. Document everything. Record conversations if you're in a one-party state. Talk to a lawyer. Be discreet. Pretend everything is okay. I'm so sorry. You'll get through this, but not with her. Commenter. I was in a very similar situation, and you can check my post history for my story. The only difference is she never brought them around. They were always someone from outside of our family life. It's gonna suck. You're probably going to have panic attacks for no reason. I'm not sure how long ago you found out, but the following 2 weeks after my D-Day was nothing but panic, shock, and just generally not knowing what to do about anything. After that, I just kind of got numb for another week or two. Then, I decided to pull my head out of my ass and better my situation. I never had the chance to hang out with friends as she was always gone, so I started going out in the evenings. I started to try and enjoy myself, and eventually I did. Of course, I still had random bits of depression here and there, but that eventually turned into anger. I was so angry at her, angry at the betrayal, angry at myself for allowing this all to happen. So I used the anger to push myself. I started to work out, not because I was overweight, but because I had nowhere for this anger to go. I needed to get it out, but without having the police called. I did high-intensity exercises. I walked a lot. I was averaging 100K steps a week, just whatever I could do to get out of my own head. Now, you're going to start pain shopping, looking for more proof of her affairs. You'll probably find it, but it won't make you feel any better. Collect whatever you've already discovered for your lawyer and leave it at that. There is no need to keep looking. You'll just reset your panic/depression/anger cycle. My ex was a compulsive liar and gaslighter, so whenever she spoke to me in person, I started to record, whether video or voice, as long as I could keep a record of it. Once she saw me recording, she usually would just stop talking, so I couldn't catch her with her own lies. Should I have seen a therapist? Probably. But I found something that worked for me in the end. My life is already much better than it was during our relationship. I have a life again. Chin up, it will get better. OP, definitely in a combination of anger, pain, shopping, searching for more, and trying to get oriented with what's going on. Mostly because it's just so bad, and the gaslighting and affairs have been going on for years. Great advice. Thanks. Thank you for sticking around until the end. If you liked our videos, please remember to like, share, and subscribe to keep up with our latest content. Have a wonderful day.